welcome to our morning edition of Arirang News. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour. The U.S. Senate approved the annual defense policy bill for the next fiscal year, which includes a key provision that bars the use of defense funds to reduce U.S. troops in South Korea below the current level. The National Assembly held a parliamentary hearing into the massive data breach at e-commerce giant Coupang. Harold Rogers, the new CEO of US-based Coupang Inc., apologized to Korean customers, but the absence of the company's founder, Kim Bum-seok, at the hearing fueled anger from lawmakers and the public. U.S. President Donald Trump is set to deliver a primetime address to the nation, as polls suggest his popularity has slumped in recent weeks, amid economic concerns and persistent cost of living pressures. We begin this morning with the U.S. Senate approving next year's defense budget bill. The bill includes provisions that restrict the Trump administration from unilaterally reducing the size of U.S. forces Korea below the current level of 28,500. Our Lee Seung-jae starts us off.
The U.S. Senate on Wednesday passed the 2026 Fiscal Year National Defense Authorization Act, approving a defense budget of $901 billion, about $8 billion more than requested by the administration. The bill passed 77-20 and will take effect after President Donald Trump signs it. A key provision bars the use of defense funds to reduce U.S. troops in South Korea below the current level of 28,500 and reaffirms the U.S. nuclear umbrella commitment to Seoul. The funding restriction, which had been absent during the Biden administration, returns under Trump's second term. Analysts say it reflects congressional efforts to prevent potential troop reductions as the administration pushes for greater burden sharing among allies. The bill also restricts funding for the transfer of wartime operational control from the U.S. South Korea Combined Forces Command to a South Korea-led command to prevent the transfer process from deviating from the agreed framework. The restriction can be lifted after 60 days if the Defense Secretary certifies the transfer aligns with U.S. national security interests and has been coordinated with allies. The Lee Jae-myung government aims to complete the transfer during its term, and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has voiced support. The NDAA will cover the U.S. defense budget from October through next September. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
The U.S. State Department said on Wednesday that it held separate bilateral talks with South Korea ahead of the Pac-Silica summit, during which nuclear energy issues were also discussed. U.S. Undersecretary of State for Economic Affairs Jacob Hellberg said officials from both sides met several times the day before the summit and raised energy issues during those discussions. However, he declined to provide further details, saying they're confidential. Hellberg said Washington is fully committed to supporting South Korea's energy needs, including nuclear power as well as non-nuclear sources such as natural gas. Pac-Silica is a U.S.-led alliance aimed at building a secure AI supply chain with South Korea among its members. And in about an hour, U.S. President Donald Trump is set to deliver a rare evening address as economic concerns and cost of living pressures persist. He announced the plan on social media, saying he'll address the nation from the White House on Wednesday night local time. While details have not been immediately disclosed, the announcement comes as the anniversary of Trump's return to the White House approaches. The White House said the president is expected to highlight his accomplishments over the past year and outline plans for the remainder of his term. The address also comes as recent Reuters and Ipsos poll shows that just 33% of U.S. adults approve of how Trump's handling the economy. Pressures mounting on e-commerce giant Coupang following one of the country's largest personal data breaches. Lawmakers are now demanding answers and accountability from the company's leadership. Our Moon Yeon has the latest.
South Korea's National Assembly opened a hearing on Wednesday into the massive data breach at e-commerce giant Coupang, which exposed the personal information of millions of users. Lawmakers from the Science, ICT, Broadcasting and Communications Committee questioned newly appointed executives in the absence of founder and chairman Kim Bum-seok and former CEO Park Tae-jun, drawing criticism that senior decision-makers were again avoiding direct accountability. Questions focused on how the breach occurred, the company's data security practices, internal oversight, and who should ultimately bear responsibility. Harold Rogers, the new CEO of US-based Coupang Inc., apologized to Korean customers and addressed criticism over the company's limited response.
The investigation is ongoing. We're working daily, around the clock, with multiple regulators here in Korea. As we learn and confirm the facts, we will be rolling out a responsible compensation plan for our customers.
So far, Coupang has limited its response to basic prevention guidelines and simplified account deletion. Rogers also faced pointed questions over Coupang's revenue structure and criticism that its top leadership was avoiding accountability.
In 2024, Coupang's revenue amounted to 41.29 trillion Korean won, and 90% of that came from South Korea, 36.4 trillion won, 90%. Does it make any sense for witness Kim Bum-seok to not be here while talking about being a global company?
Ahead of the hearing, Kim submitted a written explanation citing overseas residence and global business commitments, while Park resigned just a week earlier. The Assembly's National Policy Committee has since decided to file an official charge against Kim for failing to appear without justifiable reason and pass legislation allowing fines of up to 10% of total revenue for serious data breaches. 문혜련, Arirang News.
So as we just heard, the Coupang chairman's absence from the National Assembly hearing over the company's data breach fueled anger from lawmakers and the public. And discussions on tightening regulations for online platforms are now gaining momentum. For more on this, we're joined today by An Jun-sung, an attorney in South Korea. Mr. An, thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
So a revision to the Personal Information Protection Act was passed by National Assembly Committee yesterday. And this raises the cap on penalties for large-scale data breaches to up to 10% of a company's revenue, right? What do you make of this? Do you think it will significantly encourage companies to strengthen data security?
Yes, the proposed amendment to the Personal Information Protection Act reflects the clear move toward a stronger regulatory enforcement against large-scale data breaches in South Korea. From legal perspective, the possibility of such substantial financial liability is likely to encourage companies to strengthen their data protection and compliance frameworks. However, its practical effect will depend on whether and how the amendment is enacted, and also on the matter how it is implemented and enforced.
I see. And the National Assembly decided to file a legal complaint against the Coupang founder and former chief executive officers for not appearing before a parliamentary hearing yesterday. And a separate Democratic Party lawmaker has now proposed an amendment that would impose an entry ban on foreign witnesses who refuse to attend hearings without valid reasons. What are your thoughts on this? How realistic is the entry ban proposal?
That's an interesting question. The National Assembly, as you said, has decided to file a legal complaint against Coupang founder Kim Bum-seok and the two former chief executive officers for failing to appear at the parliamentary hearing without justifiable ground, citing the violations of the Act on Testimony and their appraisal. From a legal standpoint, the move reflects the National Assembly's clear intent to reinforce the authority of its investigative and oversight powers with respect to foreign witnesses. However, the proposal to impose an entry ban on the foreign witness who declined to attend the parliamentary hearing raised complex legal and procedural issues. So as a result, actual enforcement will require a clear legal basis and procedural safeguards.
Right, and it's now fueling anger from the public, and consumers are now filing lawsuits against Coupang. Are they likely to receive any compensation?
Whether the consumer can receive compensation will depend on several legal factors. In this case, plaintiffs must establish not only the data breach has occurred, but also that Coupang was negligent in its data protection obligations and that the breach resulted in actual damages. In this respect, the Korean court has taken a very conservative approaches in awarding compensation in data breach cases. So while the plaintiff cannot demonstrate concrete financial harm. So accordingly, the likelihood of compensation will depend on the plaintiff's ability to prove both negligence and actual damages.
Right, and this is not the first time South Korea's faced major data breaches. We saw previous incidents involving companies like SKKT and Lotte Card. What regulations are currently in place in South Korea regarding large-scale personal data breaches?
Yes, while the Personal Information Protection Act provides a comprehensive framework for the data security, recent large-scale breaches, including companies such as SK Telecom and KTS, exposed the regulatory loophole in Korea, such as delayed notification, unclear threshold for the mandatory reportings, and insufficient threshold for non-compliance. So this instance suggests that although the law set out the statutory obligations and penalties, the practical enforcement and effective deterrence remains a challenge. But interestingly, if we actually compare with European EU standard with Korean standard, Korean standard is not weak at all. Actually, it's very it's strong in of itself, but it depends on how we implement it, how we enforce that policy. I think that's kind of a question you have to talk about in the future.
I see. So I guess it's now up to the companies to protect and strengthen their data security. All right, Mr. An, thank you so much for your insights this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
South Korea saw a record number of people taking parental leave last year, thanks partly to the recent rise in the birth rate. And it wasn't just moms looking after their children, so were a record number of dads. Our Park Jun-an reports.
South Korea saw a record number of parental leave takers in 2024, surpassing 206,000 for the first time since such data was first recorded in 2010. According to data released by the Ministry of Data and Statistics on Wednesday, the total number of people taking parental leave reached just over 26,000, up 4% from 2023. This rebound follows a slight dip in 2023 amid low birth rates and coincides with a modest increase in the fertility rate from 0.72 to 0.75, the first rise in 9 years. And a notable shift is emerging toward shared parenting. The number of fathers taking parental leave surged 18.3% to over 60,000 fathers, accounting for more than 29% of the total, the highest proportion ever. For the first time, more than 10% of fathers of newborns took parental leave, meaning roughly 1 in 10 eligible fathers of 2024 newborns used leave in the year their child was born. Overall, parental leave usage for newborns last year hit a record 34.7%. However, over 60% of parental leave takers work at large companies with over 300 employees, where usage rates are higher. In small firms with fewer than 5 workers, only 41% of eligible mothers took leave, raising questions about why parents at smaller businesses often make less use of parental leave.
Small businesses are already short-staffed and often cannot find replacement workers. When employees take extended leave, employers still bear wage costs, adding financial pressure. While parental leave supports child-rearing, it also widens the gap between workplaces, and this issue deserves serious discussion.
The general trend of more fathers taking parental leave reflects the government's efforts to combat low birth rates by encouraging paternal involvement in childcare, marking progress toward more balanced family responsibilities. Park Jun-an, Arirang News.
One of Netflix's biggest Korean hits is ready for more. As Culinary Class Wars Season 2 was unveiled this week, its producers and chefs met the press, opening up about untold stories and the emotions behind the second helping. Our culture correspondent Park Geon-woo has more.
Flames and sparks fly as two culinary classes collide. The hit Netflix cooking competition, Culinary Class Wars, is back with a new season. Pitting 20 white spoons, established chefs, against 80 black spoons, the underdogs determined to take them down. Producers say assembling the new season's lineup was a surprise in itself.
Many chefs who declined in Season 1 gathered the courage to apply this time. We even reached out to some renowned chefs, expecting rejection, but many accepted right away. Once the lineup was complete, we couldn't wait to reveal it.
The white spoon lineup is stacked, ranging from Son Jo-won, the only Korean chef operating 2 Michelin one-star restaurants in Korea, to Samjik, a revered monk known for temple food. But the black spoons are far from pushovers, with many running popular restaurants known for long lines and loyal customers. The series first made headlines last year, becoming the first Korean variety show to top Netflix's non-English TV rankings for 3 consecutive weeks, and this time it aims to recapture that global momentum. While the show entertains audiences worldwide, chefs say it offers something deeper than competition.
I was questioning whether I was still truly a chef. Through the show, I realized how much I still love cooking. Each of the 100 chefs has their own story, and I hope viewers focus on them as they can be a real source of comfort, as it was for me.
This show was a challenge for me as well. I believe growth comes from overcoming challenges. The previous season gave renewed energy to the culinary scene, so I hope more attention is given to the chefs, even to those that are not on the show.
Producers say the show's success also shaped its direction.
As the show performed well overseas, we thought about how the new show could contribute to Korea in some way. So, we chose to spotlight not only famous local specialties, but also lesser-known ones of high quality.
The first 3 episodes of Season 2 premiered Tuesday, firing the opening shot in what promises to be a full-scale culinary war. The battle continues through January 13th, leaving viewers to wonder who will win, and can the series reclaim its global crown? Park Geon-woo, Arirang News.
We had a quick taste of winter this morning with temperatures briefly dipping below freezing. But highs will rise similar to yesterday under bright skies this afternoon. And with the milder than average temperatures we've had this winter so far, it doesn't really feel like the end of the year here in Korea. Overnight cold wind blew away the dust in the air, so we are expecting much improved air quality nationwide. Highs in Seoul will be getting up to 7 degrees, Daegu, Gwangju both topping out at 11 degrees. And many of the southern provinces will notice temperature swings of more than 15 degrees between the morning and the afternoon. Make sure to layer up. Temperatures stay on the much warmer side through Saturday, then rain on the same day will bring down the temperatures on Sunday. Things will turn colder, but not to a freezing level through the end of the year.
That's all we have for this morning. Arirang News will be back at noon Korea time. Thanks for watching.